most car lifts are an afterthought. Atlas Elite Lifts designs architecturally refined car lift systems for luxury homes, high-end condominiums, premium dealerships, and commercial spaces. No bulky industrial equipment, no compromise on design, just seamless integration and precision engineering. So beautiful, it's Batcave ready. You truly have to see an Atlas to believe it. Visit www.atlaselitelifts.com today.
Okay, so it's March 2014. We're in 40K debt. That's the extent of our credit. So we don't have any more credit. We have no cash in the bank, and we're getting overdraft fees. So I'm talking literally, we are bone dry here.
Wow.
And we have to let our employees go because we have no choice, which to me, was admitting like
Defeat.
failure and defeat. Yeah, that was, if we let the employees go, we are shrinking. We have failed.
The great Mark Cuban once said, business happens over years and years. Value is measured in the total upside of a business relationship, not by how much you squeezed out in any one deal. And we couldn't agree more. This is the Business Development Podcast, based in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and broadcasting to the world. You'll get expert business development advice, tips and experiences, and you'll hear interviews with business owners, CEOs, and business development reps. You'll get actionable advice on how to grow business. Brought to you by Capital Business Development, capitalbd.ca. Let's do it. Welcome to the Business Development Podcast. And now your expert host, Kelly Kennedy.
Hello, welcome to episode 322 of the Business Development Podcast. And today it is my absolute pleasure to bring you Pia Silva. Pia is a serial entrepreneur, brand strategist, TEDx speaker, and the founder of No BS Agency Mastery, where she helps 1 to 2 person branded agencies scale to consistent 30K months without employees, burnout, or BS. She's also the host of the No BS Agency podcast, author of Badass Your Brand, and weekly contributor to Forbes. Pia is a partner at Worst of All Design, the branding agency she co-founded with her husband, Steve Wasterval, where he specialized in building badass brands in just 1 to 3 day intensives. Their revolutionary approach to branding has helped hundreds of service-based business owners position themselves as premium experts and take back control of their time. Through her no-fluff coaching, writing, and speaking, Pia has become a bold voice for solopreneurs who want to grow powerful, profitable businesses without compromising their freedom. Her work has been featured on MSNBC, EO Fire, and top stages like Goldman Sachs, 10,000 Small Businesses, and Social Media Week. Pia doesn't just teach business, she builds it, lives it, and fiercely leads it. If you're ready to stop blending in, start charging what you're worth, and finally own your badassery, Pia Silva is the fire starter you've been waiting for. Pia, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show.
Woo! What an intro, Kelly. Thank you so much. I'm fired up to be here.
Yes, a well-deserved intro.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, really cool. I honestly don't take a lot of reach outs to my show. So it was really like, I was immediately intrigued though when I saw what you did, when I learned about your book, and when I learned kind of like branding badassery, because I love that. You know, I'm in business development. A great brand helps me do my job like no tomorrow, right? So for me, I'm 100% on board with amazing brands. And I think it's something that's so challenging and hard to grasp for a lot of people, because I think so many people start a business just thinking, well, I'm good at this. I could do this and sell this as a service, not ever thinking about like what the whole thing actually looks like until they're well down that path. And you and me both know a lot of trial and error on that path.
Absolutely. I went through the same path, so I know what you're talking about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Your book, Badass Your Brand, The Impatient Entrepreneur's Guide to Turning Expertise into Profit. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I can't say that about a ton of books. Like I read decently, but at the same time, I don't typically finish a book and think, holy crap, I want to start figuring out how I'm going to implement these things in my business. And I absolutely did do that with you. And so I have to say, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, because you actually sent me the book. So not only did I get to learn all that great information, you know, I got to learn it for free because of you. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. I'm so delighted every time I hear that it changed the way somebody thinks. I mean, that's what
Yes.
a great book should do. And that was always my goal with it too. So that's awesome.
Yes, it's incredible. So, if you're listening to this, just get the book. I'm just going to start out right there. It is good. We're going to get into it today. We're going to talk about concepts in the book, but you got to just read the book. It's a really quick, incredible read. It's got, amazing chapter ends where you can kind of go through and fill out stuff for your own business. And I would highly suggest you do so. I actually haven't gone deep in it, but I'm going to hit it again, Pia. I'm going to hit it again and do all those workbooks for my business on the way as well. But incredible book. But take us back to the beginning. Our listeners want to know who the heck you are. Who is Pia Silva? How did you end up the rock star serial entrepreneur you have become today?
How far back do you want to go, Kelly? You know, I can't say that I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but
Yeah.
I do know that I always wanted to do my own thing, be in charge. That's what I used to tell my parents and adults when they said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I was like, "In charge. I don't
Yeah.
care what it is. I just want to be running it." So I guess that was saying entrepreneurship, but I
That's
didn't
right.
have that word. I wasn't necessarily saying business owner. I remember for a time I said, I want to be a movie director because I liked
Amazing.
Alfred Hitchcock movies.
Yeah.
And so director sounded right to me. But that means that I have actually never applied for and gotten and worked in a traditional job. So the only quote real job where somebody was paying me to show up and do stuff in a structured way that I've ever had is bartending. That's not
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
corporate.
I did that once too.
Yeah, I loved bartending. And in
Yeah.
retrospect, bartending was sales
That's
and,
right.
client service and management. So it all worked. I did real estate for a little while. I did consulting and gig work through my early 20s because I couldn't stomach the idea of going into an office every day. So I did temp work and stuff, but I just always needed to have that flexibility. So I was trying things. I helped this friend of a friend open a pizzeria cafe once. He was opening a pizzeria cafe and through the grapevine was like, "Oh, Pia's smart. She can help you do that." And I did that.
Yeah.
I was quote VP of sales and marketing for a tech startup at
Cool.
one point because again, other friends of friends were doing this and they were like, "Pia's smart. She can figure this out." And I was
Yeah.
figuring out sales and marketing for them. So that was actually my journey.
Yep.
And then when I was 24, I met my eventual husband, Steve, and he's an artist. And I tried to help him sell his art on the street for a little while. Then we were both gigging. He was freelancing. We ended up going on this epic trip to the British Virgin Islands to camp and work off the land for a
Yeah.
little while. I was
Yeah.
trying to find myself. And
Yes.
all of that led us back to, you know what? I said, "Steve, you're really talented at the design. You kind of suck at the client management, the billing, the money. You're not charging enough, all these things." I said, "Let me just take that over for you. We can work together. I'll handle everything. You just do the design work. And I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to figure it out." And that's how we actually started the business.
Wow. So Steve was really good at design. So your idea was, I think I can sell this. And I think Steve can ultimately make the designs for the branding. But talk to me, because branding, you sure, design, but there's so much more to it. And branding is just, or design, sorry, is just really one very small part of your book. So small it barely gets any time at all, right? I think people automatically think, well, branding is, just the image I show to the world, but it's so much more than that, isn't it?
When we started, I didn't know what branding was either. I actually have a book. It's so funny. I actually pulled it out and showed our clients when they all came here for a treat last year. Because I was like, "Look how cute this book is." It was explaining what branding was and
Yeah.
explaining logo hierarchy and stuff. I remember us sweating over this book at some point. "Oh my God, we have to build a brand. What is that?" And reading through this textbook.
Yeah.
So no, I didn't know what it was either. We weren't selling branding at the beginning. We were just selling hourly graphic design services. Steve knew how to put together a website page. This was 2011. There was
Yeah.
no Squarespace then. There was nothing built out of the box. So it was very hodgepodgey. We would make banners. We would make, postcards. But through the efforts of trying to get clients, through all of my networking, communicating with other people who owned little businesses like this, little design companies, I was absorbing everything they were doing. I was trying to copy what I saw them
Yeah.
doing. And over time, I learned not from the book, but just through my own experience of trying to stand out, trying to
Yes.
explain why we were different than the other person at the next BNI chapter, like trying to understand explain what we did and how we did it. It was over years of trying to get it through people's heads so they wanted to hire us that I kind of naturally developed my understanding of branding. And Worst of All Design was always the business name, but I kind of grew into understanding why it was a really good brand. When we put, we build badass brands without the BS as our homepage tagline, that came from starting to really embody and embrace the way that we approach things that was different than I remember a company it was like Gray Box something, like these companies that were the complete opposite of Worst of All Design. So it was a really organic evolution where I started to understand more and more why branding was important, what it means to stand out, what it means to have a brand that's really authentic to you. And then, of course, as I learned this for myself, started to apply it to all of my clients and realized that, whoa, that's where the money is. That's where the value is. And I can charge a lot more for this.
Yes, and we got to get into that today because I think that's a big piece of value we can provide to our listeners today for sure. Because I think many of them are undercharging and working their asses off trying to keep up. It's it's not easy starting a business, and I wanted to chat a little bit about that today because a lot of our listeners, they might be high level executives. They might actually already have really great ideas of things they want to do, but making that leap is really hard. And I want, and you talk in the beginning of the book about how, you guys started Worst of All Design. You were doing it kind of the old fashioned way, hourly, trying to just build your brand, build your business. You hired a couple employees. I think everybody does that pretty quickly, thinking that's the secret to success, right?
Worst.
Only quickly you realize, holy shit, I'm going into debt real fast because these employees eat 80% of our revenue.
Right? So bad.
Walk me through the launch of Worst of All Design. And you have a very different approach than many other entrepreneurs have to making the leap to entrepreneurship, but still a decision and bravery has to happen to make that leap. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I feel like there were phases of making the leap because I feel like what we started with was really that basically me managing Steve's freelance career. That's really all it was. I was just calling it a business. So I'm just hustling, trying to find clients and sell the work hourly. And over time, and by the way, my goal was just for us to make enough money to live. And we were living as cheaply as possible, right? Because to me, I had no idea what I was going for. I had no reference point. And I had, like I said, it wasn't like, I want to start a business. I was like, no, I just want to not have to go work for someone else.
Yes.
And I want to be able to pay my bills. That was, that's a pretty low bar in retrospect. But at the time, that was, and I don't want to bartend till 4:00 in the morning anymore.
Sure.
That was the other thing. So the leap, there was enough I don't want to get me, ironically, to get me off my butt at 6 a.m. every morning and go into the city in the freezing cold and network with people at 7 a.m., over coffee. I did that. I was relentless pounding the pavement because I didn't know what else to do. I thought if I just talk to enough people and get in front of enough people, I will get some business, right?
Yeah.
And I did. Like we hit our first 10K month 3 or 4 months in, but and that sounds, exciting because I know sometimes people it's hard to get there, but you got to remember we're 2 people working around the clock. And, and I am hustling. It's not, I am, and I'm not, and we weren't on social, we weren't really on social media then. So there was no like sitting back and creating content. I was out in public all the time, just hoping to cross paths with someone who at that very moment needed graphic design work.
Yeah.
So to say that it was a hustle in the beginning is truly an understatement.
My goodness. Yeah, no, it really is. And I think the other side, you talked about 10K a month. It sounds like a lot, but by the time you pay taxes, you pay overhead and you pay yourself, it's not a lot at all.
I got a good story for that. So like we were a little over 2 years into our business, not even. Yeah. And we had it was like towards the end of the year, we had about $20,000 in the bank. Kelly, I thought I was a freaking millionaire. Like I had never had that much cash in the bank.
Yeah.
And I'm just feeling like I'm on cloud 9. That's when we got this studio. That's when we got this office here.
Yeah.
We split it with a friend at the time, but still we were like, we got to get out of this, we're too big for our britches. So we got our studio. We were like, we need to really front like we're a professional company because, and of course we need a studio. I know people think that too. I need an office so that people take me seriously. And then I hired 2 employees. I did all of that because I had $20,000 in the bank in December.
Yeah.
April comes and my dad's like, you owe that in taxes. Like, oh my God, I forgot. I had never made enough money to owe anything substantial in taxes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I didn't make that mistake again. And that's like something I'm like constantly talking about to my students and anyone who will listen, how you need to know how much the taxes are before, like as you're making the money, or else you get into the situation that I was in.
I got blessed. My sister's a bookkeeper, so she smacked me into line real quick when I launched my company. She's like, look, immediately you're putting away this much.
My dad's a CPA.
Oh,
he didn't say that until the taxes were due.
Yeah.
I appreciate his hands-offness, but
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's one of those things that I've been really, really fortunate with where like from the very beginning, from the first dollars we ever started making, I was taking 20% and just tucking it in an account for a rainy day, right? But I got a lot of it back at the end of the year, but I never owed taxes and I never worried about them. And I know a lot of businesses, they don't make that choice and they end up bankrupt because they can't afford their taxes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, to your point, it was definitely scary and a lot of work. And then we didn't hire those employees just for fun. We hired them because we were feeling so overworked, which I think you're kind of alluding to. People hire so quickly because they think, oh, I'm so overworked, so that's why I need to hire. And I try to stop people. I'm like, if you should be uber profitable, there should be a huge profit margin to be able to start outsourcing, especially to a full-time employee, maybe to a contractor, maybe to a VA. But I think it's a messy middle time where you got to be really careful about hiring before you figure out if what you're selling is profitable enough to support those hires. And mine was not at all. I didn't even know, I really didn't understand what was and wasn't profitable at the time. So those employees are most of the reason why we ended up in such debt 3 years into our business.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of companies run into that exact same place because, we alluded to it with the taxes. You don't know what you don't know. And you start this business because you think, okay, well, I'm a great electrician or I'm an accountant. I'm awesome. I can do this for myself, right? And then you get into the field and you realize that that's just one piece of a much bigger puzzle that you don't have all the pieces for. And then, you're out there networking, trying to figure out what you're missing or what you don't know. I'm 5 years into running my own business and I'll regularly look at my fiance and say, what is it that I don't know right now that's screwing me over right now in this moment? Because there's something that I'm doing that I shouldn't be doing and I know it and that sucks.
Which is why I started pretty early on, but not early enough, working with coaches and consultants. Like those first couple of business coaches that told me in retrospect, like the real basics, I owe them everything, right? That's how I started writing. I mean, my first blog articles were total crap, right? And now people love my book, right? I developed that skill because he told me to start writing in 2013, 2012.
Wow.
So it is priceless to be around other people who've already done it, who've already worn the path. You don't have to do everything that they did or said, but just get that information more quickly.
Yeah. I've learned more in the last 2 years of doing this show than I think I did in the 20 years preceding it. It's incredible how much you learn in these conversations. It really is. It's a blessing.
Yes, I'm with you.
Yeah, one of the things that you talked about in the book, and I love this, was you were talking about how many companies are not taking their own medicine. They might be web designers, but they have the worst website on planet Earth, or, they're business developers, but they never do their own business development. They're always out there trying to find clients, but they're not doing business development for themselves. I've been guilty of that. So many companies, right? Let's talk a little bit about that, about companies taking their own medicine. Why was that important to you?
Oh, it is such a missed opportunity, not only because this is supposed to be your wheelhouse, the thing that you are most expert in. So, I like to say that you are your most important client.
Yeah.
And not only is it I think there's something to be said for I'm selling this to you because it's so important, but I'm not doing it for myself. How important do I really think it is, right? So there's a mismatch in the messaging. If I'm saying, I think branding is so important. I know my brand is nothing. Forget about my brand, but branding is really going to help your business. And also, I'm struggling. I'm struggling in my business and my brand sucks, but you should pay me for brand. I mean, it just doesn't, it's not congruent. So, we got to walk the walk, but this actually mostly came to me, again, kind of organically. We really started to lean in more to this badass your brand, worst of all design, badass brands without the BS, which I have to say as a side note, in 2012, 2013, when we were saying badass, it was like we were cursing in people's faces.
I know.
Now, it's not nearly...
No. Different world.
Right? We're in a completely different world. But at the time, like some people like almost had to censor me. So we really started leaning into that. And I kind of got really into it because I loved that. I loved
You love the edgy brand.
I loved the edgy, but I also just loved that everybody had a reaction. And some people would kind of wince and I don't really get it. Like, why worst of all? Like, wouldn't you want to be the best? And I'd be like, it's cool. You're just not our client. I would, I had all sorts of quips by the time, because I talked to so many people. And then other people would go, oh my God, I love that. Like, tell me more. And then I would tell them the story behind the name. And then they would go, oh my God, I love that. So it was so much to talk about. So I really saw how powerful it was just as a talking point. But also, we ended up, if you even go to our website, and by the way, I haven't changed our website in like 10 years. I kind of did it on purpose because it's really simple and there's not that much going on. And it has brought me so much business. And I like to tell people that, like, because branding is not about, I need some custom widget button somewhere. It's the messaging and it's the vibe. It's how you're connecting with people. Okay, so I say that because we thought badass brands, like we're going to attract all these super creative, cool, young. I was picturing like lots of 30-something dudes. We attracted like so many straight-laced industries. We got so many lawyers, financial planners, contractors, like people in industries where they would come to us and they would go, I want what you have. We can't be worst of all design and you can't say something like badass, but we want like your version of what we need to be. That blew my mind. We got creative people too, but I was just I could tell my experience every day was, I want to hire you because of your brand. That's what I want. I want what you did for yourself. And again, missed opportunity. I loved when it all kind of clicked together because I said every minute that we work on our own business and our own marketing has dual purpose. We're showing off what we do and it's helping us get clients and it's helping us get better at what we do. Now I can spend money left and right on building my skill set in here because it's always got this dual purpose, which I love to spend money on my business. So anything that made me more confident about spending lots of money on my business, I was all for. It was like, you can't spend too much money on this because the value is only growing exponentially.
Yes. Yeah. I think so many people are so reluctant, and it's funny because I'm sure you see it all the time. People will come to you and be like, a few $1,000s. Like, do I really want to spend that? And it's like, well, it's your business, right? What is the value to you?
You know what I like to help people do? Like, close your eyes and imagine the business you wish you had. Like, just not your business. Like, even picture someone else's business, right? Like, if you see a business that's not yours and you go, God, that's the kind of business I want. What do they have? What's going on for them? What are they doing in the world? Guess what? Go do that and you'll have that business.
Yeah.
Okay, but that costs time and money. But if you just you don't have 300, what is this, 324th episode? You don't have 320 something episodes of your podcast and nobody knows who you are and nobody listens to your podcast. Like, I'm sorry, that's not how it works. So just do the thing and you'll have the business that you want. But I think that there's a disconnect there. It's like they don't believe if they do the thing, they'll have that business. It's like, no, that's exactly how it works.
Yeah. And you alluded to something that you really, maybe you can spend enough money to bridge that gap, but there's this thing that's just time, right? Like,
that too.
Everything takes time. Anything worth doing, in my experience, has taken time. Like, I recognize that my show was not going to be popular at episode 20, probably not even popular at episode 100. I think we might be getting popular now at episode 220, whatever we're released to today. And hopefully by 322, we'll be super, super popular. But it takes time. And like, this is, we're recording this like pretty much a year out, which is amazing. So thank you for doing that. But but for two, like that's the time commitment that I made. I recognize, you know what, this is a long game. Podcasting's a long game. The podcasts that I love are all in their like, let's call it 600, 800, 1,000 episodes.
Yeah.
That's where I got to be if I want to be successful. And it's going to take me, let's call it 7, 8 years to get there. Let's do it. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I just love that you said that. Yeah. You have to have some patience, but it's not like it's all or nothing. It's not going to be nothing. And then the switch is going to turn on. There's micro wins along the way. And believe it or not, you were just remarking on, I've got a little over 200 episodes and I do 1 episode a week. It's like, gosh, it's been 4 or 5 years. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Like that went by pretty quickly. I remember when I launched it feeling like I was really behind because I had been thinking about launching it for 2 years before I did it.
Yeah.
That was 5 years ago. Oh my God.
Yes. It's amazing how fast time goes. I think we really underestimate how fast time is actually going to go by. And so don't waste any more of it, really. Like at the end of the day, if you have something you want to do,
going.
Today is the day. Get it,
going.
Same with me. I decided, I think it was November of 2022, we were going to launch a podcast just because we love podcasts. I had like no other reason to it other than the fact that I knew that with business development specifically, there was nothing. And I mean nothing. Like nobody had touched on business. Like how in the world in 2023 was the business development podcast even a possible title option? I can't tell you. Luck of the draw, but it was like one of those things where I saw it and I'm like, yeah, this is go. Like I have to go on this. This is the only time I'm probably ever going to get an opportunity like this again. So here we go. Let's do it.
That's awesome. Oh, I kind of similarly, mine was actually, it had a different name. It was called Show Your Business Who's Boss podcast. And it was me just interviewing my friends. And that's not what it is anymore at all. Although the themes are probably very similar. But yeah, I mean, it was a different thing.
Because, okay, so I found that. And then I found, was it the Pia Silva podcast? Like, did you have another name in the middle?
No, you probably just found my brand on stuff.
Okay. I was like, oh wow, that's 3 name changes.
I'm married to a no, just the one, and that was tough for me. And I went all in on this niche of 1 to 2 person branding agencies, and it took me a full year before I finally was like, okay, yes, I will obviously need to rebrand my podcast, but it was hard to do emotionally.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about that really quick, right? The companies coming to you that are realizing, oh shit, we have a bland name and it's not doing work for us, but we're connected to it like no tomorrow because we've been operating under it for 10, 15, 20 years. Talk to me about that. Is there a lot of like emotions you have to deal with when you're going through a rebrand?
Yeah. Let's just talk rebrands, right? Because naming is just one piece. And actually I have strong feelings about the fact that names don't matter at all, except when they do. I think I'm like, people are way too hung up on names, especially for service businesses. It's different when it's a product and you're trying to like scale. And I think that's a different conversation, but I live in the service business space. So I'll keep the conversation there. For service businesses, I think the name doesn't matter unless it's wrong. So if you're missing the mark with a name, like it's hard to spell, it's hard to say, it's hard to remember, it's generic and other people own it. There's lots of ways you can get it wrong. Yeah. But I think people think that the right name is going to make it, and that is so the wrong way to think about it. So I try to like loosen people up a little bit. This is more for new businesses. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Just don't make all these mistakes. So I guess it does matter a little bit. To me, it's really obvious what a wrong name is. But in terms of rebranding, I always tell my clients, we're not going to change anything that doesn't need to be changed. And we're not going to change anything unless there's a reason to change it. So we always start from the point of view of what's the problem that we're trying to solve? Where are we trying to go? Where are you right now? And we will make all the changes and not one more that will get us from A to B. That's it. So that when I'm showing them these changes, I actually don't find that they have a hard time because I connect it always to that end goal. And as long as the client can understand why each change or new thing needs to happen in service of their goal, they're always excited and on board. I think the mistake that branders make is they don't make that connection for the client, or they get too wrapped up in their own creative juices and they just want to make it look cool without thinking enough about the strategic reason. I have people come to me sometimes and they say, I want to hire you to make me a new brand, new website. I'm like, oh, okay, tell me why. They're like, because it's old. And I'm like, well, that's not a good reason. What else? And if they can't give me a good reason, like my business is suffering, I'm not getting the right clients, my clients are confused. Like if it's just, oh, I just personally don't like it, I won't do a vanity brand because you're really hiring me. You're like commissioning me for a piece of art to to fulfill on some sort of creative vision you have, which is a different thing than strategic, business-minded rebranding, which is where the money is and where, I think serious business owners operate.
Okay, that's going to lead me into a new question then. How does a company know it's time to rebrand or that their brand isn't doing it for them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes out of a business development conversation. So I think it should always come from first, let's look at what's going on in the business. Where are we struggling? And branding is often a piece of that. So, the first step when people come to us, I want a new website, I want to redesign. Great, we do the brand shrink first. And this is what I teach all of my students, by the way. I'm like, you always got to start with this first interview, understanding the full picture.
Yeah.
Because we want to, again, make these decisions based on business reasons, not just clients' design ideas. And so a rebrand could touch visuals a lot. It could touch visuals maybe not that much at all. It could be really heavy on how are we positioning who we're speaking to? How are we talking about them? What kind of language are we using and not? That's brand messaging. That is a big piece of this. How are we pricing our services? How are we presenting them? How are we packaging them? What's the sales conversation look like and why do people buy from us? All of that is brand. When you get that stuff really right, a good designer, and I'm like lucky to have somebody in my business who's kind of amazing at this, but it's like once we get all that strategy clear, the design is kind of obvious to him. He's like, oh, it just has to be this. And so when we present it, it's like, this is the only thing it could be because we did all this work up front to figure out what the brand needs to say, do, feel, communicate to who and why. And so then the design is, not to say it's easy, but it's like if you just follow that path, it kind of leads you to the answer. And sometimes
once again,
it's a bigger
follow
change.
Your very specific process that has taken years and years and years to build.
That
right?
too. Well, that's why you need a process, though,
That's
because
right.
the process, I trust a good process, right?
That's
and I
right.
know if we do this kind of work, it'll be clear what that redesign is. And sometimes Steve will scrap what they have because there's nothing to salvage, and sometimes he'll keep everything about it but level it up, and it looks like a completely new thing, but it's like we'll often, like just as an easy example, if their thing is this particular color blue, we might just tweak the hue of it and modernize it, and we'll tell them that. We'll be like, we love that you're using blue. That really works for you. We're just going to tweak the hue saturation a little bit. And they love that because they see, oh yeah, it feels fresh, but it's not like you turned my brand yellow.
Yes.
Right. So we do that too, not just because why change it if it's like right, but also because we want the client to feel like bought into it too. You made a good decision. We're just going to modernize it a bit. So there's a little tricks of the trade.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Pia, I want to get into, the beginning of the book. I want to get into the beginning of the book.
Okay.
So you'd hired employees,
Mm-hmm.
you had these like grand plans to do the expansion. I'm not, it wasn't really clear whether or not it all went to plan or not, or whether you might have lost a client or whatever. But basically suddenly we're $40,000 in the hole as opposed to making money. And you know what? That happens to tons of businesses. So but that's not the crazy part. The crazy part is 1 year from that exact moment, you guys had $500,000 in revenue. That is a turnaround on monumental, epic proportions that any business would be ecstatic. And everybody listening right now is like, what? You did what?
Yeah.
I want to talk about that. Walk me through the steps of how the hell do you turn a company that's $40,000 in the hole, but bankrupt basically, to, we did $500,000 this year and we're going to do even more the next.
Yep. And with lower overhead.
Quick pause here, and thank you for tuning in and supporting the show. I want to recognize Hyperfab, a Canadian precision fabrication company built by the team behind Hypervac Technologies, supporting projects in both Canada and the United States. They focus on high-quality sheet metal, fast turnaround, and solving complex fabrication challenges when it matters most. Hyperfab is proud to be our title sponsor for 2026. Thanks for listening. Let's get back to the show.
Okay, so it's March 2014. We're in 40K debt. That's the extent of our credit. So we don't have any more credit. We have no cash in the bank, and we're getting overdraft fees. So I'm talking literally, we are bone dry here.
Wow.
And we have to let our employees go because we have no choice, which to me, was admitting like
Defeat.
failure and defeat. Yeah, that was, if we let the employees go, we are shrinking. We have failed. So luckily, Steve didn't have that perspective. He was like, no, this is not failure. This is just like the next evolution of our business. I don't know if it's his creative artist thinking or something. I'm like, where did you get that brilliance? Because I was just so myopic and I'm on this train. I mean, that's me. I'm on this train. I got these goals. You're not derailing me. Oh my God, the train has crashed. We're all dead. So he said that, and I was like, okay. So we got rid of the employees. And we said, okay, well, what can we do? And the reason we ended up in debt, we had actually generated $240,000 in that past 12 months. So it's not that we weren't bringing cash in. It was just that it was so expensive to have this studio and the employees, and we live in New York City and all that stuff. And 40,000, like now, it doesn't seem like so much money. At the time, it was just, we'll never get out of this. But how did we generate that money? It was mostly from selling these $30,000-ish, $20,000, $30,000 projects. And they were full branding website projects. And to justify that cost, we were putting our whole team was working on it for 12 months. There was just so much involved in each of those. And they were really hard to close. Lots of proposals written that didn't get closed. Lots of proposals ghosted, pitching all the time and wishing we would win, hoping we would win some just to keep the lights on. We go into debt and we go, you know what? The year prior, my business coach, Evan Horowitz, I had been just complaining to him because I had been networking with so many people. I knew so many people. And I said, everybody says they want to work with us, but they don't have anything close to $30,000. And that's what we need to charge.
Yeah.
And he said, well, how much do they have? And I said, well, they've got $3,000. And he was like, well, what could you do for $3,000? I said, oh my God, nothing. I could do one day of work. Me and Steve could work for a day. And, we could do a lot of stuff in a day, but, clients, they're so difficult and they won't just take what we make. And he was like, well, why don't you try it? Pitch it. So we had been doing those here and there. We had been telling clients, you know what? We can do a day's worth of work with you for $3,000. You kind of have to trust us. You're going to get whatever we make. We'll work with you for the day. We'll make tweaks. We'll make as much as we can. So it'll be kind of up to you. The more you say yes, the more stuff you'll get.
Yeah.
And we had people buy in. We did a handful of these throughout that previous year. Secret, didn't tell, was not on the website, didn't want anyone to know. Because it was, it was cheap and we were trying to sell these big projects. So then we go into debt, we get rid of the employees. And I go, you know what? That thing's starting to look pretty good. We need some money right now. And I could probably go sell a couple of those. And then I started to evaluate. I was like, you know what? I could probably sell a lot of those. $3,000. And now that we don't have the employees and it's just us, we could literally do a couple of those a week. And light bulbs are going off in my head. $3,000 for a day. I didn't put these words to it at the time, but in the years after, I was like, $3,000 for one day for the two of us versus $30,000 for who knows how long we were working on it. Many, if you had to add it up, probably 20, 30 days.
Yeah.
Is so much more profitable. And that's when the light bulb went off for both of us. And we said, forget these big projects. We're only going to do these. And I went back to all of the outstanding proposals that I had for the big projects. And I said, I called them up. And they were like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I haven't gotten back to you yet. I was like, no, don't worry about it. I'm calling to tell you that proposal is null and void. So I'm not even going to do it if you want it. But I'll do the same project for you for, it was either, if it was a smaller one, like a $3,000 one day or a $5,000 2 day. I said, I'll do the same exact thing for $5,000 in 2 days. The catch is you just have to trust us. You're kind of going to, you can make some tweaks, but you're kind of going to just take what we make. But you want it because you were considering a $30,000 project with us. You like us.
Yeah.
And they all said yes.
Wow.
Because they all had this expectation. I didn't plan it like this, but they all had this, they're looking at us like we're this expensive agency. They wanted it, but they couldn't pull the trigger. And then we basically said, we'll give it to you for like a tiny fraction.
A tenth.
All said yes.
Yeah.
All said yes. So we start doing them and they're so awesome and easy to do. And they start sending their friends. I mean, it was like I had been chasing and swimming upstream, and then all of a sudden the water came like gushing towards me because, first of all, especially at the time, nobody was doing one brand in a day, brand in 2 days, right? We were some of the first people like really using Squarespace in this way.
Yeah.
So we were like, we can build you a whole website in 2 days and a brand. And it was really easy to sell. So now I go back to my whole network. Remember, I've been networking with these people for years.
Yeah.
And I just tell them, hey, we're like, I know you think of us as this. We've actually changed it. And we're doing these 1 and 2 day intensives, $3,000 and $5,000, do an entire brand and website. And I was just getting referrals left and right because all these people who knew me, it made it so easy for them to send people my way. And people loved it because people love instant gratification.
Yeah.
We already had some cred. We have a cool brand. And then after we did a bunch of them, I was like, oh my God, I should raise the price. So then I started raising the price. I was raising it $1,000 every month.
Wow.
We got it to, within that 12 months, we got that 3,000 to 10,000.
Wow.
And we were doing a couple of them a week.
Wow. That is incredible. Pia, I have to ask though, how do you take, okay, and you know, this takes, I have to give you massive kudos because I can't imagine the wheels that have to turn or the things that have to happen to take, I get it, like, sure, you know, before, like you said, it would take 30 days to do essentially a branding project, months by the time you're done. How in the world do you take something like that and shrink it down into 1 to 2 days? Like, it sounds like magic. It sounds almost impossible.
I know.
And for a business thinking about that or like thinking, how do I take all my services, you know, let's say that they are an accountant company or they are, you know, a business developer like me. How do you take something that typically takes time and shrink that down into a service you can provide in a couple of days?
Yeah. Okay. So there's 2 pieces to this question. Okay. The first one, I'm just going to explain that what we deliver now, because now our 2 day is $40,000, is a completely different thing than what we delivered when it was $5,000. I just want to be clear. We didn't just raise the price and it's exactly the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So for example, now that $40,000 project, based on a strategy that we got paid to write beforehand, so everything is super clear, Steve and I will spend 3 or 4 full days beforehand doing the project. And then we execute the intensive, which is mostly getting the client on board and making final tweaks and launching it. And that's a fully comprehensive messaging strategy, copy, website, identity, materials. Like it's a full on thing. The $5,000 2 day at the time, we did a little bit of prep because we didn't have any process to follow. We did some prep, but then we built it before their eyes and we were sweating and we were doing it in real time. And, you know, we were definitely like, but it was a pretty simple website. The thing that we were cutting out was the BS that you don't realize is taking up so much of your time. I would argue that when we did those long projects, I would argue that 70 to 80% of what we were doing was not helping the brand and the project. It was emails, phone calls, revisions, back and forth. Oh, where's the feedback? Oh, can I get this?
Yeah.
You know, it was so much BS. That's why when I say BS, I mean, I mean it.
You got to
This
remove
is not
that BS.
some kitschy, fun word I came up with. I'm like, no, I'm literally getting rid of that. That's what we got rid of. So even now, it's like we are instead of what a lot of designers do is I'll work on this and here's like the mood board. Let me show you. Oh, get your feedback. Okay, next week, let's meet and I'll show you the revised mood board. And we will do that for 50 steps until this thing is done. And along the way, the client will get distracted. Your basement will flood. This payment will, so much happens in that time. So even if nothing goes wrong technically, like things just, life happens, stuff happens. So a lot of reasons that projects get derailed and scope creep happens, And by the time you're doing this, like by the end of this project, everyone's tired. There's no enthusiasm left.
Yeah.
The designer is just trying to finish it because the client has like whittled down their amazing work with all of their, revisions and like opinions, and, their cousin's friend has an opinion and now we got to see this 5 different ways. We're getting rid of all of that. And that's what we were doing for even in the early days. We were saying like, we're still going to do our great work. You're just going to get out of our way.
Interesting. It still seems like an astonishing amount of work to do. Even in the beginning, I get it, but like, holy cow, it seems like a lot to do in a couple days.
Another reason, like and listen, I have students and they take longer, and that's okay. Like for me, the philosophy behind it is not so much that you have to do it as quickly. Like I would hope that the more expert you get at something,
you can do
the
it quick.
better it is in the shorter time, right? Like this is our process, so we should be like the best at it, right?
Yes.
And we have developed, like Steve has a really awesome creative process that has shrunk. He used to spend 60 hours on a logo, and he used to tell me, I must spend 60 hours on a logo for anything of value to come out. And the way, and he was like really resistant to this at first, but the way that we've developed his process, we've actually flipped the creative process on its head. So he does the logo last after he's developed the brand.
Oh, interesting.
And the logo like falls out at the end. Like he does not spend more than a few hours on the logo, and he makes awesome logos. He's also good at logos, but I'm saying like we've tweaked a lot of things about the work process, the creation process to make it shorter. And a lot of that has to do with having a structure to follow so that you're keeping your eye on the ball of what you're trying to accomplish. If you have a really clear strategy, there are so many guardrails around your work. And I think what I watch creatives do, especially because a creative personality is someone that is going to follow lots of ideas and like have fun with it and get lost in a hole, right, of things. They can sometimes spend hours. I watched our employee spend hours like just futzing with something. It's like neither here nor there. Like it did not add anything, but they were just kind of like really in love with their playing of the things. So I try to, and I get resistance from creatives about it. They're like, I love to do this. I said, wouldn't you love to do it for your own project more? Like this is not helping your client and it's unprofitable. So how about we make your process really sharp? You're going to do awesome work for them. And then you're going to take all that extra time and go paint something. That's how I got Steve off of it. I said, I want you to take those 60 hours that you don't need to spend on this and go make a painting. Wouldn't you rather do that too? Like
Absolutely.
So I think that's a big mindset shift that I have to help people with. And it's not, by the way, about taking value away. Like it is about, I actually find we're able to deliver more value to the client by doing it this way.
Yeah. Because, you sat down and you said, take away everything. What are the most important things they need? And how fast can we deliver on all those things? And then, obviously, we're providing a tremendous amount of value, which means we can charge for it. It's a win-win all the way around. It's a win for you. It's a win for them. It makes a lot of sense. And, this particular service we were talking about, it's called the Brand Up, correct? The one that you started with?
I call mine the Brand Up, yes.
The Brand Up, perfect.
But I encourage all of my students to name theirs.
Well, that was it. That was what I wanted to say, because most people are like, well, I'm an accountant. So like, it's accounting services, right? Or whatever.
Right.
How did they pick? You really talk about, and all the examples you give in the book, every single person named them, trademarked the name. Talk to me about the power of naming your product.
Yeah. Such a good question. Listen, it's a product, it's a process, it's a framework. It adds so much value on top. It makes it easy to buy when something is packaged as a branded item. What it tells the person buying it is, this is reliable. I've done this a million times. There is a reliable thing that we're going to do to get the outcome that you're looking for, particularly in creative services, but in all services. I pay more because you have a good process and I know I'm going to be taken care of, and I can see how it's going to go. For creative work, I don't know what I'm buying. I'm buying hope that you're going to do a good job. That's really, I have no idea. This is not like trying on a pair of pants and I can see if they fit me or not,
Yeah.
I just hope that you're going to do a good job for me. And I can look at your work and say, well, you've done a good job for them, but really I don't know what you're going to do. So I need something to hold on to. And what I'm going to hold on to is, I'm buying your process. I'm buying that you've done this way, and I'm not going to be You're not going to be figuring anything out. I'm going to feel really taken care of the whole time. I'm going to feel like I'm going through something that's what expertise looks like. I got this. Here's what happens next. I always teach people, you got to use language like that. Okay, so here's what's going to happen next. I'm going to do this. You're going to do that. You're going to get this email. You're going to click. And clients will fall in line and they're happy to because you're directing them and they feel, again, taken care of. But I just want to, because there was one more point I wanted to answer on your previous thing, and this is to the accountants out there or whatever service you're offering.
Yeah.
The other concept about the intensives that is really important is that we work with one client at a time. So we are not, what's it called? Task switching. There's a lot of
you're not jumping around.
Yeah, there's a lot of efficiency lost when you're going from project to project. What we do is we go with one client from beginning to end till it's done. That's also a way to do something in much less time. It's very efficient. And so in any service, you can kind of do that too. If you can package your service up, say, hey, this is the week where I only work on your thing. You can get an amazing amount of work done for a client if that's all you're working on for a week. So that's another concept that can be very helpful.
Well, I got that from, it was the videographer example that you gave in the book where you were talking about they record every Tuesday. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a new client recorded every Tuesday, and between that Tuesday and the next Tuesday, they're finishing that client up, basically doing 4 a month, being their capacity they can work at that time, but being able to kind of always know where they're at. And one of the things that I've always taught in my business development coaching is simply that. It's like you need to know where you're at, because it's so easy when you're doing business development to just be able to sit down at your desk and be like, what should I be doing right now? It's so important to just be able to know where you're at and what you have to do next, which is why process is so important there. But it's clearly important in everything. No matter what the task is, you need to know where you're at and what to do next.
Yes, absolutely. And so the other piece of it is really about this selling that first step up front, which is so critical. And that actually also simplifies your biz dev and how am I supposed to get more clients? We're only trying to sell this one thing. It's really simple and easy. I know how to talk about it. I know how to qualify people. So that's like simplifying what you're doing when you're a small service business, I think is critical to being successful. And I think most service businesses, they just have a lot of things they could do and you end up not quite doing anything that well because you're unfocused and you always kind of feel like you should be doing something else. So I try to tell people, like, if you can get clear on this is the only thing I need to do. And for me, it's all you need to do is sell lead products. You're just selling lead products. Everything else comes after the lead product and it makes sense. We have a process for it. So your job is just to sell this easy to buy lead product.
Yeah. We're talking about selling. So I want to get into the selling aspect of the book where you literally said, stop selling. So stop selling, Pia. Stop selling me.
Between you and me.
What do you mean by stop selling?
Stop selling. Yeah. I'm being a little tongue in cheek here. Selling, I think everybody thinks selling, yuck, right? Who wants to sell? Who wants to be sold to? The reason we feel that way is because I think selling implies that you're trying to convince someone to buy something that they don't need or want. And so when I say stop selling, I mean, don't even, your goal should not be, I want this person to buy my thing. Instead, think of it like this. Like, if somebody has a headache, you ask them, do you have a headache? Yes, I have a headache. Okay, would you like some Advil then? Oh yeah, sure, thank you. You don't try to give Advil to somebody who doesn't have a headache. They'll be like, I don't want your Advil because I feel fine. So that's what I mean by, if someone doesn't have a headache, don't offer them Advil. If somebody doesn't have a problem, don't try to force a brand or a website down their throat. And that's why it feels salesy. It's when you're trying to convince people that they need something that they don't really think that they have a problem or that they need.
Yeah, no. And I think too, there's a psychology of it as well, right? Like if you don't need, you talked about it when you were talking about selling the art, right? Once the company was doing great and you didn't have to sell the art.
Yeah.
You didn't give a shit if somebody wanted to buy the art or not for whatever your price was, right? There's a lot of power in being able to not give a shit. Like, and I mean that in the best possible way. We obviously all care about our services and products, but there's a lot of power. You talk about being able to turn somebody away, being able to say no. And that's like a whole aspect we're going to get into in a minute. But the power of being able to say no is probably the most powerful thing that any business owner has in their tool belt. And yet almost none of them use it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really interesting concept, right? But if you are able to say no, you give a lot of reasons in the book why being able to
Mhm.
say no is powerful. I probably 10 different examples, but the being able to say no to the wrong things lets you say yes to the right things. And you hit on in the book that the right things are probably the best paying and the best clients anyway.
Yeah. And I think this is something that it's like a muscle that you build over time. It's really hard to say no in the beginning when you need money and somebody's offering you money. And I get that. And I don't even think people should say no in the beginning, especially when you haven't worked with that many clients. But after you've been working with clients, you need to start to clear up your schedule from those time-sucking projects that aren't paying you that well anyway and are
Yeah.
taking up a lot of your energy. And there's got to be a little bit of faith and belief that if I redirect all of that time that I just saved by not taking that client, I can use that time to go find the clients that I do want to work with who are going to value what I do and pay me the prices that I want and need to charge. So saying no to certain things is like the only way to get the clients you actually want, to say yes to the things you actually want. And it's a hard thing to do.
It's
And I
hard.
think
Yeah.
there's a messy middle time where, you still need to take some of those clients. I've done it too, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I need this client this month. And that's cool. Just be clear. This is I call them fast cash. This is one of those fast cash clients. I'm doing it. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not that profitable, but it's going to bring some cash in right now to buy me more time because I'm building my skills, building my marketing, building my, my brand. I'm building my network. And I'm doing that in service of one day I'm not going to take any fast cash clients. So I
Yes.
think it's just being strategic about it.
Yeah, it's knowing where you want to go and being able to, because that was one of my questions reading the book, is like, that makes a lot of sense. Like this, implementing all this, it requires a bridging period, right?
Yes.
And I was just like, okay, well, what about the bridging period? Because you really need
I
that
don't think
bridging
I
period.
write the bridging period in the book. I'm very black and white.
You
I
didn't, but I'm putting my own words into it because
Yes,
that's
no.
basically what it is. It's a
Yes,
bridge between
yes.
who you were and who you were about to become,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And there's going to be, like you said, that messy space in the
Yeah.
middle where you're still doing a little bit of the old stuff, you're doing a little bit of the new stuff. But I think what you're kind of saying here is everybody's going to have to figure out their bridge. It takes bravery and badassery to do it. But the faster you are able to embody the new version of yourself and say no to those old things, the faster you're going to be who you want to be and the company you want to be.
Yeah, I think that is beautifully said. I think it's really about just know what the vision of what you're going for is and what those principles you are wanting to embody. And it's okay. Entrepreneurship and success is not a straight line, right? It's okay if you kind of meander your way there as long as you're really clear on where you're headed. Because what I find is a lot of entrepreneurs are not clear on where they're headed, take whatever they can get. Oh, I want to just raise my prices. Oh, why aren't people paying? It's a little aimless. There's not clarity around I want to charge as much as I can, not I want to charge this much because that's a profitable amount to charge for this service. And once you have that clarity, that's how I got to 10,000 for a day so quickly. I realized that was the price I needed to charge to get to a certain level of profitability to afford me a certain lifestyle.
Yes.
And then I got there really quickly because I had a clear goal and I was
Yes.
tweaking things as I went to get to that goal. And I couldn't believe how quickly I got there after I set that intention. And I don't mean that in any sort of way, because I'm not very woo-woo. It was more just like, oh no, now I see the path.
Yeah. It's like, I don't want to be where I'm at and I want to be over here and I want to be there as quickly as humanly possible. And you logicked your way to it. What are the steps, right? I think so many things. If we were just willing to sit down and write out the steps, we would accomplish so much more. I guarantee you there's people listening right now who are going to, after this show, they're going to buy your book, guaranteed. And then they're going to start figuring out, how the heck do I change my company into the company I wish it was? Because every one of us started a company with a dream. And many of us have fallen short of the dream or feel like that dream is maybe it was woo-woo, it was impossible. We just didn't see it at the time. But it's not true. It's not true. We just didn't have the right steps to get there. And really, I'm not even over talking it. Your book has the steps.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Tia, before we wrap up today, my gosh, I could talk to you for like 2 hours, but I know we both are very busy. Before we wrap up today, I want to chat with you about pricing for freedom, the 50,
Yes.
25, 25 rule. I think this is powerful and I want our listeners to know about it.
Yes. Okay. Love it. One of my favorite concepts. This is actually how the $10,000 one day came about in my brain, because we were working we were doing all of these 1 and 2 days and we were burning out. And I was taking every project. So Steve hated me because I was like, we've got this little pocket and this person wants to do it. How can I say no?
Yeah.
I was and I had so much trauma from being in debt. So now that we had money coming in, I was like, we must take all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So then this is halfway through the year, I sat down and I said, wait a second, how much money do we really need? And I evaluated, this is what our business costs, this is what our life costs, and this is what we'll need for taxes. Didn't make that mistake again. So how much do we total need? And I realized, okay, if we were making about $20,000 a month, that would pay for everything and we would be happy. And so I said, okay, well, what if we did 2 1-days for $10,000 and we buffered ourselves a full week? Because at that time I said, well, if we're going to charge $10,000, we'll probably have to do more pre-work. So let's just give it a week for each. Then we'll have 2 weeks a month available. And then I can use that time to build my marketing and do all this stuff. And you can paint. Because that was always part of the intention of our business. Steve, be able to.
How do you put more time back in to do the things you wish you could?
Exactly. And part of figuring this out was also so that we had a clear strategy on how to put weeks aside so Steve could paint. Because again, I would always take clients and say, oh, let's stick them in there. I know you were going to paint that week, but I'm not going to say no to $10,000. So once I did this, I said, oh, great. So then the next time a client wants to come in, instead of sticking them in that 3rd or 4th week, I'll say our next availability is whatever, the next month on the 1st week. And it worked great. That worked fine. And out of that, I developed this concept of the 50-25-25 rule to profit and freedom. Essentially, I needed an equation. So if you can make the total revenue that you need, and you have to account for taxes, personal and business in order to do this, in 2 weeks a month or less, it became just 50% of your working hours a year. Then you can take the other 25 and 25%, 50% total, and put 25% away for business development. People do biz dev in their spare time, and that's not how you develop a business. This is strategically saying, I will spend at least 25% of my time on business development only, building my skills, building my marketing, networking, whatever it is. And then I'll have the other 25% for freedom.
Yes.
Because we built our businesses so we could have freedom and flexibility.
That was the goal, right?
That was the goal. And you know what? If you're like me and you stick things in, you never go anywhere.
That's
and you
right.
never have freedom, especially if you're doing well, because you'll always have clients. So when are you going to take this time? So instead, we had to start scheduling our freedom in.
Yeah.
And with this schedule, a year or 2 later, we did 5 projects in a row once. We did literally every week of May and the first week of June. At that time, we were charging $20,000 each. We banked $100,000, and then we went to Europe for 3 months.
Wow.
And didn't tell anyone because we didn't have any clients. We didn't have anyone to tell.
Yeah.
And I was just booking our next clients for when we came back. So
Amazing.
I just told them, oh, we're busy until September.
Yeah.
And then I just booked them in for September. And that's what it looks like to be able to think annually about, okay, as long as I'm hitting this top number and I'm doing it in 50% of my time, I've already allotted that 25% of my time for biz dev and that 25% of my time for freedom and flexibility. And it just makes things so simple because it allows you, it helps you figure out what you need to charge for what you're delivering and when it's profitable.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually have this thing called the price to freedom calculator where you can just plug these numbers in and it'll spit out for you exactly what you should be charging right now. And it's not that you're necessarily charging that. Usually people aren't charging that yet. But it's well, now I know what I need to be charging. So I'm not there yet. At least you have what I had. Oh, okay. But when I get to 10,000, I will have priced my business for freedom. And then I can continue. It's just really nice to have that hard number.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one of the things oh my goodness, like I said, I could ask you 1,000 questions. One of the things that I want to ask about now, just from that, was in the book, you talked about, the amount of products that a company should really have. And, maybe I'm a little bit bad for this because let's just give my examples. So for the podcast, we sell advertising for the show, which is amazing. Love it. We do coaching now, which is a new development for 2024, which I do business development coaching. And I'm still somewhat stuck in my old world of actual business development where I still do business development retainer contracts. But I find myself in this really weird place where, like, my passion, you talk about follow your passion. Like, at this point, teaching. I love teaching. The show we teach, when I get to do my coaching programs, they're so much fun. They're like, it's like, honestly, if you were to take like the best parts of my job, that's it. And if I could do that 100% of the time, I would. But it's kind of that like weird space right now where, you still kind of do that old thing and that's the thing you're known for. And then you're kind of trying to transition into this other space. How does a company make that choice? And I know for you, you'd say follow your passion. It's big in the book. But like, how does a company decide how many products make sense? Like, how do you do it?
Yeah. I mean, I think it should start from, well, what's the goal, right? Like,
Yeah.
what are you trying to do? I mean that in the big sense, like, what do you want to spend your time doing? How much money do you want to make? There's a lot of paths
Yeah.
to an amount of money. And sometimes just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Mm-hmm.
So I have friends who have killed, I was just talking to a friend yesterday, she killed a $11 million a year business
Wow.
a couple of years ago because it was stressing her out and she was tired of it. And it was going really well. But it was, she had a different vision for what she wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously that's like, huh? But it's, but it just kind of shows when you're really tapped into,
Yeah.
this is exactly what I want my life and business to look like. It's again with that clarity, knowing that number. I think that should dictate the things that you sell and how you sell them. And I often coach a lot of my students who are selling high ticket premium services, right? Premium design services. They always, and this is actually not just for them, this is for like all services. They always think, what if I sell a course? Like, I just need some passive income, which is obviously hilarious because there's nothing passive about passive income until you have a really big marketing machine. And even then you're constantly feeding it. And I always tell them, I say, that's a different business. And 100%, I'm a big fan. I have those things too. But I can tell you from having made the mistake myself that you don't just offer a course on the side of your high premium services and people just buy them. It's actually a completely different message, marketing, funnel, like everything. And so if you want to do that, just know this is my goal and I'm starting a new business to do that, and make sure you're giving it that kind of attention.
Yeah.
So that's how I think about all the things. It's like, how is this in service of what the bigger goal is? Is this something that I'm going to give my time and attention to? Do I see it in the long term as in service of my long-term vision for myself?
Yeah.
That's how I make all decisions in my business.
It makes a lot of sense. You're making all your decisions based on how does this impact my freedom? And does it align with the amount of money I really want to make, right? Does it have those two things?
Yes. Let me tell you how that really influenced me. All of our brand up clients want to hire us after for retainer work.
Yeah.
All of them. They're like, can you do, because I have a lot of marketing, right? So you see me on social media. Everybody wants to hire us for social media. I've never done social media for anybody, and I won't, because I don't want retainer clients.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And like you said, it ends up just becoming this long, drawn out thing that almost always goes longer than it should. Like, I think the nice thing about what you're doing is there's like a fixed start date and a fixed end date. And there's a lot of power in that for a business, right? There's so many companies that are like out there chasing that like long-term retainer or whatever else. But like, guys, that sucks. That's a lot of work to upkeep. There's something really nice about being able to know I'm working with this client this week and this client the next week. And eventually that's going to be done and we're going to find new clients, and it's priced and if you do it that way, you can also price it at a value that they see value and it's value for you too.
Absolutely.
I'm going to be, I read your book and I'm going to be like, I got to go back and do the workbook on this.
It's a good example of me and Steve knew exactly what we wanted, right?
Yeah.
And we didn't want to be servicing clients all the time. And we're both intense workers, and we're in our bubble, completely absorbed in this brand. We love doing that. And we're so done when it's done, like, I'm like, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Like, I love you, but goodbye, So
I love you, but tell your friends.
For us. Yeah, tell your friends, but also like, don't call us. And I mean that with all the love in the world. It's just how we are, it's just my personality. So it works really well for us. And some of my students, like, they also do retainer work, but they do it in intensive. I teach them to do it in an intensive way. So you do an intensive day every month. So you still have that retainer work, but it's profitable. And that's all I care about. Is it profitable? Is it servicing what your goals are? That's it.
Well, and I think for every business owner, remember why you did this. You did this because you wanted freedom. I know for me, that was a huge point of why I went out on my own, because my brain, for whatever reason, I saw all this freedom of being able to do my own thing. And then Pia ended up deeper than ever, working harder than I ever have in my entire life.
Me too.
Right? Like,
what the hell?
There was nothing freeing about becoming an entrepreneur other than the fact that it's nice being your own boss.
I know. What do they say? Entrepreneurs are the only people who will work 80 hours a week to not work 40 hours a week.
Yeah, that's a really good line. You should trademark that too.
I read that somewhere. That's definitely not my line, but it's good.
Oh, Pia, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for coming on today. Please do lead us into the No BS Agency Mastery. What is it? Who do you serve?
Oh, thanks for asking. I serve 1 to 2 person branding agencies who want to scale to $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 months without employees. And I do that by teaching them this model and all the things around building a business like this. So very specifically for people who want profit and freedom and ease, not necessarily looking to build a big team, scale up products or anything like that.
Amazing. And if they want to get a hold of you to do that, what is the best way?
Yeah. What is the best way? I think you should go. Okay, well, you've been talking about my book, so I'd love to offer your listeners. You can absolutely go buy my book if you like. If you like a paper copy, you should. You can also go buy it on Audible or Kindle if that's your speed. But I actually recently took the exclusive rights from Amazon back so that I could gift it in certain situations. So I actually put it up on nobsagencies.com/business development just for your listeners.
Oh, amazing. Okay.
If you want to grab private audio feed of my book,
cool.
That would be the best thing. And you'll end up getting on my email list and can reach out to us there.
Amazing. It's powerful. Please, anybody listening to this right now, if you run a business, you need to listen or read this book. Pia, it's been incredible. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Pleasure's all mine.
Until next time, you've been listening to the Business Development Podcast, and we will catch you on the flip side.
This has been the Business Development Podcast with Kelly Kennedy. Kelly has 15 years in sales and business development experience within the Alberta oil and gas industry and founded his own business development firm in 2020. His passion and his specialization is in customer relationship generation and business development. The show is brought to you by Capital Business Development, your business development specialists. For more, we invite you to the website at www.capitalbd.ca. See you next time on the Business Development Podcast.
For industries like mining, forestry, construction, and energy, downtime isn't just frustrating, it's expensive. For more than 55 years, Thunder Bay Hydraulics has been trusted to repair and manufacture complex hydraulic cylinders that keep critical equipment running. With in-house engineering, precision manufacturing, and decades of real-world experience, they specialize in the kind of complex hydraulic work many shops simply can't handle. And while they're proudly based in Thunder Bay, Ontario, Thunder Bay Hydraulics works with companies across Canada to deliver reliable hydraulic solutions wherever they are needed. Their mission is simple: a relentless pursuit of zero downtime for the industries they serve. Learn more at www.thunderbayhydraulics.com.